Good evening and welcome to the Full Authority meeting. I'd like to welcome two officers here tonight. We have Hazel Anderson Turner, our organisational development consultant, and also very skilled in things like transactional analysis, Myers-Briggs, you name it. So we welcome you, Hazel. We also welcome Ellie Wild. Thank you. I'm told he's a technical program manager. So welcome to your first meeting. One of the people around the table is leaving us, and I'll talk about that later. You're all wondering who now, but there is a degree of teasing going to go on that one. But we'll kick off with traditional apologies, please.
Chair, we've received apologies from Councillors Tina Mackenzie Boyle and Greg Bello and Safir Sati, and attended via virtual is Dennis Bennerworth and Peter Pua.
Very good, thank you very much. Members, having looked at the agenda, are there any declarations of interest you would like to declare? Okay, thank you. And then the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of September 2024, pages 7 to 16. We look through. We also, when we do this, we look at the actions outstanding, if there are any. I cannot see any, except for one on page 15. I'll pick that one up if I may. An action to DSL. Yep. Done. What did we ask to do? 0P6. Yeah.
Management Committee and Fire Authority.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Members, are you satisfied that we should approve these minutes? Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey, for a proposal. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ajinda Gahir. Thank you. So that's proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. And if you don't mind, Faith, I'll sign them at the end of the meeting. I promise so to do. Okay. Are there, Ms. Breton, any Faith, any petitions and questions in public understanding orders at 19 and 25? So I'm into Chair's announcements, and I'm going to start with the thing that's last on here. And the thing that's last on here is that the M4 will be closed tonight from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. We hope to finish before 9 p.m. I suggest we all try. Yes. I suggest we all try, even me, including me. All right, to ensure members of they can use the motorway. And I'm told that it should be eastbound. Okay, it's about access at junction 12. Are you going to be able to access at junction 12? West, we can go down through the A4. So anyway, shall we finish at 8:30 and give ourselves, 10 minutes to get down there? Right. There's our objective for the evening. Never mind the good business. Let's finish by 8:30. Any advances on 8:15? Okay. Well done, sir. Okay, so I'll rattle through my Chair's announcements. They get longer and longer here, I've got 4 pages here, so I'm going to go into fast speak, I think. The inspector's inspection concluded, and the inspection spans several weeks, known as round 3. Inspected how effective and efficient the fire service is by asking the following questions. Let's remind ourselves, and this is more for the video and the record, really. How effective is the fire and rescue service at keeping people safe and secure from fire and other risks? How efficient is the fire and rescue service at keeping people safe and secure from fire and other risks? So effective, efficient, and how well does the fire and rescue service look after its people? That plays into our culture presentation tonight as well, of course. Thank you to everyone who was involved in showcasing the fantastic work everybody does. I spent some time with the inspector myself, and it was going to be a thorough exercise, I can promise you. Yeah, he certainly knows his stuff, as does Catherine, and I understand the other person as well. We anticipate the upcoming inspection will be published during summer 25. So you, Chief, when do you think we'll get the first heads up, sir?
January, Chair. So we have a hot debrief and then we get a pre-publication check version January, February. And we can only comment on that for accuracy. And then roughly, summer sounds a bit late because the issue of the formal report comes generally, they aim for 6 weeks after pre-publication check. And I was told January, February for that.
And what would be your heads up to us during that time? Informal through a management committee?
We can't discuss the pre-publication check at all. We're only allowed to do factual accuracy responses, so there won't be anything that goes out until we get the embargoed report, which is effectively at midnight on the day that it's released to the public 6 weeks after.
Not even a part two amendments. Have a think.
Technically, no. You and I might have a conversation.
I
Chair.
might say, "Are you happy?" and you say, "Yes, I'm happy," and you wink at me, and I know that's a.
I might, Chair.
Yes. Okay. We'll find a code. We'll find a way. Thank you very much. Remembrance service. Remembrance services were held across the county and UK last weekend, as we know. And our teams observed the national 2-minute silence. I'm proud to announce Chief Fire Officer Wayne Bocog attended the National Service of Remembrance last weekend in his role as Civil Service Contingent Commander. Each year, the Contingent Commander nominates volunteers. This year, he nominated William Fox to represent RBFRS. I hope you enjoyed the event, and I imagine it was quite hard work, wasn't it?
It was a busy weekend.
Yeah.
An incredible honour, Chair. Yes, very good.
Wonderful. And good honour for you. Thank you. On Sunday, the 10th of November, the Union flag was flown up full mast across our sites as the service honoured those who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedom on Remembrance Day and Remembrance Sunday. Tom Brandon, Area Manager Response and Resilience, and I attended Newbury Remembrance Sunday Parade and service. And we paraded. And a lot of the councillors didn't. So Billy was sitting there waiting with his feet up when I paraded the other end of town and walked in and said hello.
Sure. We always wait for the parade to come up, Chaz.
Yeah, I know. But I was happy to walk.
Yeah, I know it's right. Sneaked in the end.
Very good, thank you. And we laid a wreath at the Memorial site in Newbury. As a service, officers attended Remembrance Sunday events across Berkshire at Sandhurst, Bracknell, Thiel, Reading, Windsor, Early, Wokingham, Slough, Crowthorne and Sunningdale. I think it's a pretty good reach. Firefighters on duty paraded in full fire kit outside of their station, and those at Newsham Court here observed a 2-minute silence on Monday the 11th, led by Paul Brooks. I'd like to thank all those that attended Remembrance Sunday events on behalf of the authority and service. I'd like to ask all members and officers to join me in a 2-minute silence as a tribute to all that have made the ultimate sacrifice. Are we happy to stand, please? Thank you very much, members. A long time and you're not saying anything, isn't it? Very difficult for members who have 2 minutes without saying anything. Okay. We received a letter from Right Honourable Diane Johnson, DVMP, Minister of State for Policing, Fire and Crime Prevention. And effectively, this expressed how she was encouraged by the service's final outstanding task of Grenfell Tower Inquiry Phase 1 recommendation. This work was with Thames Valley Partners to test and implement the preferred technical solution to enable fire survival guidance information to be recorded and displayed at the incident ground. She commended the service's drive and determination to learn and improve since the Grenfell Tower incident and stated it was vital the service continued in this same vein when working towards completing Phase 2 recommendations. The Fire Minister stated she was confident the service would meet the challenge. She stated she was still in the process of working out the governance and monitoring of Phase 2 recommendations with colleagues across government and sector partners, including National Fire Chiefs Council, and give her assurance that the process will be clear and consistent for fire and rescue services. The way forward will be communicated as soon as she was able to. She finally pointed to a commitment to improve resilience and work with all stakeholders across the fire and rescue service to inform policy and further develop national standards. Sustainability strategy, and you're aware of this because we signed up to it as members. And in response to the climate emergency, we have now published our first sustainability strategy. The new strategy was developed with Mortis Consulting, a firm that specialises in providing specialist sustainable solutions for cultural, heritage and public sector organisations. Working with Mortis, the strategy captured work that's already happened within the service, using these milestones to shape tangible and measurable targets for the future. I take this opportunity to thank Paul Brooks and Sophie Fox, as well as our partners at Mortis, for the work they've been bringing the strategy to life. If you'd like to read the strategy in full, please visit the service's website, which is now being published. On Friday, the 1st of November, I, along with several of you here, attended the latest whole-time firefighter apprentice graduation ceremony. 18 new whole-time firefighters came into the service after months of training and were able to show off their skills in front of their friends and families at Maidenhead Station. An excellent event, dry throughout, so that's always a bonus, but it went extremely well. As with previous cohorts of whole-time firefighter apprentices, the graduates organised a fundraiser in support of the firefighters charity. They each rowed 38.5 miles, the length of the River Thames in Berkshire, on rowing machines at the Lexicon in Bracknell. In total, they raised more than £3,000 for the firefighters charity. I'm sure members will join me in congratulating them on that fantastic achievement. Following the graduation ceremony, the apprentices have now taken up their station placements across the county, and I'm sure we will wish them well in their new career. The Firefighters Charity Clothing Anniversary. You want to meet this one. Members, you may be aware that some of our fire stations have clothing collection bins outside of them. These bins allow members of the public to donate old clothing that is sold off in bulk to communities around the world to raise funds for the Firefighters Charity. This year marks the 10th year in which the service has had clothing bins at fire stations. I'm pleased to announce that in that time we've raised more than £110,000 for the charity. So we're over £10,000 a year through clothing donations. This fantastic sum, which was raised by the sale of roughly 551 tonnes of donated clothes. What's that per tonne? Probably work it out from £110,000. And it stands testament to the generosity of our communities who have given away their old clothes in support of that charity. Lambourne in particular was our most donated, raising £17,891 from 87 tonnes worth of clothing over the last decade. So we can't find on call there, but we can get clothes. It's interesting. I'll move on from that quickly. Thank you to everyone who's donated their old clothing over the last 10 years. The money raised makes a real difference. Arctic, got to get that right, not Arctic, Arctic Fire Angels. 2 of our members of staff will shortly be taking part in an expedition to northern Sweden alongside the Fire Angel Foundation. Members may already be aware of the Fire Angel Foundation, which is made up of women from fire services across the country. Earlier this year, they made national news when they travelled to the South Pole. Ellis Ott, resourcing advisor, and Joe Herring, firefighter, will both be joining the Fire Angels' next Arctic exhibition in February 2025, where they will travel to Amir in Sweden, before hiking several hundred kilometres north. The Fire Angels Foundation is aimed at providing extraordinary experiences for young women with an aim to build confidence and develop leadership skills. I'd not only like to wish Ellis and Joe all the best for their adventure next year, but I would invite them to come and give us 10 minutes on their adventure to the Full Fire Authority, please, because that's quite something. RBFRS emails, a dry subject, however, I would like to inform you and need to inform you that from Sunday the 1st of December, the service will only be contacting Fire Authority members via your Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service email accounts. As part of this change, all meeting invites will now be sent to your email account instead of your local authority email addresses. To assist democratic support in the planning of future meetings, please make sure your calendars are up to date because they'll be reviewed in terms of booking meetings. And if you have any questions about this change, please contact Faith or Michaela. And I'd rather hope you can get your emails already now on your various devices, but they stand by ready to make life easy for you, but it stays within the RBFRS domain. Member development course feedback. Member development courses have been underway since July 2024. If you've attended any courses or stations visits since July, please complete the electronic feedback form. Democratic Support uses feedback from members to review courses and make changes as required. And I do mean it because I know in my own authority, West Berkshire, we sometimes do member development just to sometimes say we've done it. And the take up can be poor. We need the feedback of why you think that was a good course. Was it necessary? Did it do the job? Was it superfluous because you've done that in your local authority? And we do check that. We do check to see if you're getting EDI training or fraud awareness training or whatever. So we don't duplicate, but we need your feedback, please. Now then, I'd like to close today's announcements by extending my very best wishes to Paul Bremble, our Head of Corporate Services, who will be leaving us in December. Paul's 30-year fire and rescue service career started in May 1994 with Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Service. He worked at various stations in Oxfordshire and in various roles for 28 years. He moved to RBFRS in September 2022 on secondment as Head of Corporate Services, which then became a permanent role. Now, he's done 30 years since May 1994. I've done 30 years since February 1994, apart from 3 years when the voters gave me a rest. And I'm not retiring. So, you know, but however, if you must. No, Paul, you go with our very, very best wishes. The service owes you a lot, 30 years, both here in Berkshire and in Oxfordshire. And again, I'm going to applaud you for your work to the service and wish you luck. Okay, let's get into the business proper. I'm mindful of this deadline, which we sort of set ourselves.
Chairman, I went to the BBC Local Radio Awards Make a Difference 2024, and on the Bravery Award was the Telhurst Fire Station. That was the fire authority. It didn't come first, but the bloke that won it was Glenn Edwards, who was a train driver in that big building. I'd just like to give the Telhurst Fire Authority members a round of applause for coming in and being nominated. Yeah.
Understanding order 30, there are none. Are there any notices in motion? And, excuse me, recommendation committees, agenda item 15 has been recommended from audit and governance, so we'll take that this evening. Cultural development presentation, we're actually in your hands now, Nikki. I know I'm rushing, but I've got a reason.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm going eastbound. Thank you. Good evening, members, and we are here tonight, myself and Hazel, to give you a presentation around our culture plan, which will be going to the senior leadership team the week after, next week, actually. And I just wanted to say up front that I guess this is the services response, really, in terms of the culture plan. But of course, you as members have already committed with your, I've got a kind of prompt of the Fire Authority Charter of Support, where you've already signed up to committing to that safer environment for staff to thrive. So this is us as officers now putting in action a plan to help that development of culture going forward. I'd also like to note that you've got in front of you some little giveaways to take away, which has just been issued to the service today. This is our culture special on Shout, and a big shout out to Becky's team, as a lot of the actions were generated by her team. This gives you a bit of a retrospective almost of the types of work that we've been doing around culture over the last 12 months or so. So it was a good time to offer you a copy of it tonight to support the presentation. So we'll get into the presentation proper. So next slide, please. Okay, so the respective culture plan is around that delivery, and we spoke about this before, I think, but then it was called the RBFRS Development Programme. But when we spoke to our staff about it, we felt that that title was a little bit ambiguous, so we decided to rename it with what it does, it says on the tin. So it's our culture plan now, and that's hopefully a little bit clearer, but it aligns to that purpose that we set in the vision around that creating a safer and more resilient communities. And along with our CRMP, this is how we will deliver that vision both to staff and to the public. The how is how we're going to do it, and that's what the details of this plan will pick up, and Hazel talks some more around the detail of those things. What's come out of early discussions is around our values, and within our existing employee code of conduct, we obviously take into consideration the code of ethics, which is the National Fire Chiefs Council code of ethics for all fire and rescue services, and that's embedded as part of our core code of ethics for us as an authority and as a service, and it also links actually through to your members code. But what was crying out from the service was, well, what's our values? Because those ethics, they talk about honesty and integrity and a lot of things that mirror the Nolan principles, but actually what is it that we want to kind of drive forward as our values? And what was coming back from the organisation were these three terms: safe, supportive and inclusive. And I think again that chimes well with the members charter of support around making that safe environment for staff to thrive. So there's 5 components in the programme, and I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. And what the kind of new takeaway, I guess, which has again come out from all the engagement that we've done, is that actually our culture is pretty good. We should be proud. And when we are doing our best and we're having a good day, that is the type of culture that we want to see in this organisation. So what we're striving for is more good days. We want it to be realistic and achievable, and we think more good days is something that we can all get behind. So I'll hand over to Hazel now, who will take you through a bit more of the detail, and then I'll pop back in again later to add a bit more detail around perhaps some of those components.
Right, thank you.
Segue.
So we have the next slide. Cheers. So if you know this case for culture, having a culture plan. So obviously the organisation has a culture, and I've been going out talking to lots of people, nearly 100 people so far, and really putting a plan together is about creating clarity. It's about creating a collective intention. It's about getting people's energy directed towards the areas that feel most important. Because I guess what I've picked up on as well is this is an organisation where people want to do well, they want to do things properly, and they want to excel in lots of areas. And actually that can mean that you're pulled in lots of different directions. And when we focus on, you know, particularly these three areas, when we're thinking about culture, safe, supportive, inclusive, it helps to direct our attention. The other thing that we hope that it will do is to create some positive momentum. So obviously, both nationally and locally, there have been things that have happened which have, you know, made the word culture sound quite a negative thing. And I've been going out hearing so many positive stories about the culture in the organisation, and I think it's an opportunity to do a bit of rebalancing. It's not saying that the stuff that we don't want, you know, we don't want that challenged, and we don't want to feel people to feel confident in challenging those things. It's an and also we want to celebrate the stuff that we do well, and we know that the more that we focus on the things we want more of, the more we get them. So it's about creating positive conversations. It's getting those stories about what we do well, you know, building through the organisation and creating that positive momentum. And I think getting the feeling that it isn't about a plan that's owned by, you know, the leaders, the members, and is put on a shelf and is not referred to. It's something that is living, it's for everyone, and for everyone to understand how they can contribute to the culture of the organisation. Next slide. So just a few tidbits around where our culture is currently. So some of the things that I've been hearing. So it won't surprise you to hear that people care deeply about their work and feel a deep sense of pride in their professions, and that sense that actually we'd like to feel a little more valued. People feel supported by their colleagues and line managers, particularly at times when they are facing challenges. This kind of sense of friendliness comes out a lot. So people feeling like, you know, you're welcomed in different places, and you can know quite a few, you know, few different people within the organisation. There was a sense that the leaders of the organisation, their hearts are in the right place. Sometimes the how of how things are done and how decisions are made might have some unintended consequences, and some of that has left people feeling disconnected. And there's this challenge, like I said, around wanting to do things well and wanting to like tackle everything that people are facing. So there's high demands, and how we do that and maintain relationships. So it's about how are we using our time? Are we using it in the right way? Are we saying, you know, no to some things that maybe we need to be doing? So that's where we are currently. Next slide. And then just giving a bit more shape around those three values of safe, supportive and inclusive. What I'm really keen to do is that the descriptions aren't my descriptions that, you know, I'm writing and saying this is what these things mean. As I've been going out and talking to people, they've been telling me what those three values mean to them. And here's, you know, some of the things that people say. So safe being about being well trained, working in a safe environment. If you make a mistake, you feel comfortable making it known. Supportive, being listened to and shown empathy. You know, speaking to a professional team that's knowledgeable and helpful. And, you know, so I'm giving specific examples. And again, inclusive, valuing difference and bringing your full self to work. And that will be ongoing. So as we go through this process, we'll be collecting those stories and finding ways to feed them back into the organisation. Next slide. And I guess what's also important, I think you can think of culture as being about behaviour, but it goes much, much wider than that. And when Nikki gets into the component parts as well, we'll be looking at that. For me, there was something about safe, supportive and inclusive also are a framework of the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. So questions about, you know, how do we maintain levels of safety when a high proportion of our staff are in development and staff turnover is high? Supportive, how can we best support staff to say well when demands are high? Inclusive, how can we ensure that every member of staff feels safe to be themselves without fear of rejection, discrimination or bullying? So all the questions that, you know, you ask yourself as a service, there's something about actually that safe, supportive, inclusive give a structure for where we're focusing our intention for the evolution of the service into the future. Next slide. And so how will we support this evolution? So there are 5 components, so different elements that make up culture that Nikki's going to talk about in a minute. There are also going to be some focused interventions, which I'm going to speak about. And then there's the whole practice of staff living the culture. So living and breathing and role modelling and getting involved with and being part of actions that help to move the culture forward. So again, it's not something that happens on a strategy somewhere. It's absolutely something that happens in the day-to-day that everybody can be part of. Next slide.
Okay, so this is back to me and talking about those components, and some of these things members will have heard before, but with a bit more detail this time, hopefully. So the first component is obviously people, and our people are the key part of building our culture. And this is also about how we interact with our communities as much as it is about how we interact with each other. We launched the people strategy at the beginning of this year, which has got 8 different objectives focusing on different areas of the organisation. So on call, learning and development of our operational staff. Members will be working on the recruitment and retention objective, and that working group has been running for a while now. And the chair, I think you've been involved in that. Those 8 objectives, we will be working on those for the next 3 years, and in each of those areas there's detailed plans being developed, and Becky is kind of looking after this component and managing it as the kind of programme sponsor for those, and it will draws together also things from our EDI plans, our health, safety and wellbeing plans, and most of that is part of Becky's domain. And we will see that progress, as we will with all of these, will be reported through audit and governance, and then obviously will form part of our annual reporting through to Fire Authority. For places, that's really about where we work and the spaces that we work in, and we'll have seen through Mark's team and Paul with the property asset management plans that have been come through. I think was it last management committee that came to members in terms of that kind of plan of what we're going to do with the buildings. It talks about dignified workspaces, it talks about our plans for investment. What comes back loud and clear from staff, not just specific to the service but anywhere, is that investing in workspaces shows that you value them and that you care, and we know that that is the case in this service because we've had that feedback through the work that the capital projects team has done. So this place element and component is an important point of showing value, but also with those dignified workspaces, it's a great way of enabling some of that cultural change to be delivered in a very practical way. The third component there around communications and engagement. So from our staff survey, we determined that actually some of the way that we are communicating across the organisation doesn't always land. We have different types of stakeholders. Some of them will be station-based, some of them will be behind a desk, some of them will be members. And so thinking about how we can engage in different ways through different channels so that we are sharing those messages, but also making them two-way communication. So it's not just transmit, it's how do we listen, how do we bring that back in, and how do we work differently as a result of that. Historically, we've done really well around consultation with the public, and certainly at the last inspection it was sort of picked up as notable practice. So fingers crossed we haven't fallen off the pedestal, but this is an area that is clearly, if we're going to get it right, this is the area we need to put some effort into. Structure and governance. So this is about the right people in the right place at the right time, doing the right things, making the right decisions, and having the freedom to do it. And this really directly links to priority 3, one of the CRMP projects that Mark is leading going forward into the coming year, that we identified around our way we deliver our operational services. And that's going to be an important part of us making sure that we've got those people in the right place. But it also affects other other elements. It's the organisational meetings we have. Are we making decisions at the right level? And this also aligns to the fire standard around governance and making sure that that devolved decision making is in the right place. And finally, on this diagram is the process and systems, the COG. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in item 12 of the agenda in terms of that productivity and efficiency. But this is how we work in terms of very practical things like our IT systems, our platforms, our ways of working. And I think we all know now that the enabling and availability of information and systems directly affects your culture. Can you have hybrid meetings? Can you have can you have a mixture of remote and in-person meetings? But also, how are we sharing information? How are we sharing information in terms of ways of working in documentation, or whether it's systems to support better ways of working? So through the plan, what we've determined is these are the 5 components that we think if we make improvements in all of these areas, we will have more good days. And they all work together, and they all tell a story that becomes the culture of RBFRS. And so the plan, as you'll read it, and it's going, as I said, to SLT next week, but I will bring it through to Fire Authority with the agreement of the chair in the new year to note, so that you're aware of it. And the plan itself will be quite short, but it tells a story of how the things interact, how they relate with one another. And they also talks a little bit about the types of research we've done to establish it, and then how we'll manage some of the successes. So that's the kind of really the architecture of the plan. In summary, and I'm going to pass back to Hazel to talk about those focused interventions.
Thank you. So next slide. So as well as those 5 components, there will be some focused cultural interventions. And this is about, it's about the story, the narrative, it's about working with teams, it's about that piece around the teams within our organisations feeling as if they're contributing, knowing where they need to focus their energy, and supporting them to bring this to life. We'll also be looking at specific interventions where, you know, some of the teams might be struggling, or there's specific areas of culture where it's a little bit, you know, sticky, and there's some focus work that could be done in those areas. I think there's also a piece around, you know, leadership development, around the role modelling piece, and supporting leaders within in that space to feel confident within culture change and the review of the behavioural competency framework. And next slide. And then what will success look like? So the success of a cultural strategy has different levels. So the first one being that, you know, the document is read and accepted across the service as a collective way forward. So first there's that awareness and acceptance of it as a collective intention, and then we're going into active engagement. So we'd be looking for engagement from staff in cultural initiatives, and we'll be looking for that role modelling of the values. And then we go into that level 3, which is when we start to see improvements in our measures. So improvement in staff survey results linked to cultural indicators, so things around trust, feeling valued, recommending the service as a place to work. And so we've got a baseline from January 24 staff survey, so we can hopefully, you know, there are lots of things that influence staff survey results, but hopefully we start to see some positive movement. And then that level 4, which is looking at some of those indirect measures in the cultural dashboard, which you know, Becky's working on. So, and that again will enable us to do a bit of benchmarking as well. So we'll have some of the standardized measures. And then within those 5 components, they each have their own governance process. So again, we'll be looking at, you know, measuring success of the 5 components themselves. Final slide, next steps. So next week, hopefully we'll get a sign off from SLT. Then we'll go into publishing the culture plan, working with leaders around creating positive momentum, going to the leadership forum in January, and supporting, you know, a wider understanding. So bringing it to life really working on the stories, sharing the practical stuff around culture. So it's not a kind of set of, I don't know, corporate speak, but actually it really does come to life and people can really recognize it. Yes, this is us when we're doing really well. And this is what we want more of. And then, you know, the continuing, so this work has been happening already. There's cultural work that's been happening all over the place. So part of this plan is bringing together a lot of the good stuff that's happening already. So those objectives still moving forward, piloting some focused interventions, revising the BCF, and then walking alongside CRMP3, so helping with the cultural element of CRMP3 next year.
And that's us, Chair. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll give some feedback on the Recruitment and Retention Working Party, which should finish its work in January. We've had again this week. Within that, we're looking for an employer value proposition. Why do people come to work here? Why do they stay here? I think some of this starts to feed into it already. So it's great to see. Will you circulate the slides, please?
Of course.
And could you, before I bring everybody else in, give us an idea of timescales? We've got next steps, but timescales, please.
So I can probably pick some of that up. So in terms of those, so the BCF, we will go to hopefully agreement next week, SLT on the 20th of November. Most of this work in those components has already started work. This is a 3-year plan to roll alongside of the CRMP, so it will overlap with the end of the CRMP. So we are building out that kind of stage gates for all of the different objectives that are in the pillars. So the things that you'll see, the next steps in the board, Hazel's already started some of the intervention work. BCF should be before Christmas, and I think CRMP3 is sort of you're getting your gathering, building the team. So it will start in January, and then the rest of this probably by the time we come to the meeting in January, where I show you the plan to know, I should have a few more details about dates.
Yes, I think the milestones, the dates. Okay, Vice Chair. Vice Chair, show the members.
Oh, I've got a fancy new badge. It's tremendous. Very nice, thank you. It's good. Yes, doesn't affect my brain power anymore, but I've got a nice badge. I think, look, obviously, when we've had reports of bad practice in other fire services, the word culture is used a lot, and clearly in some services, the culture was quite appalling, actually, given some of those reports. And fortunately, it does appear that within Berkshire, it looks like we've escaped some of those situations. I think we can never be complacent. I'm just wondering, we've just been inspected by the, obviously, perspectives. They're presumably going to make, hopefully they'll give us good or pillars or maybe even better. They're going to make some recommendations, I would assume, around, probably around some of these areas. So how will our plan be melded to those? It's not fixed, I hope.
No, of course not. And so, you know, we've taken into consideration all the plans that have been published to date and all the gap and done a gap analysis against all the feedback from those other services who've had cultural reviews, and we've done some work ourselves. So this is an organic document, and that's why it's running over for more than just 1 year. We absolutely will have actions, I'm sure, and I do hope it's good from the HMI, but there was always something you could learn in a continuous improvement, isn't there? So that's what we're still building on. We should get some indications, as we've heard, in January. So I think with culture, we would be foolish to assume that there is a plan set in stone. There is something, though, about not living in permafrost, where you don't know if you've actually made any improvement. So we do need to set some objectives in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's what we've got and what we've done so far. But what we will seek to do is do that kind of annual horizon scanning, which we do as part of annual planning cycle anyway. So any of those issues that matters are arising that are coming out of either the sector, but certainly we are prepared for our own HMI report being something that will be another indicator.
Okay. Other members, an important piece of work, as I say, bring us the stages, bring us the journey, take us on the journey. Members have put their weight behind the member charter, and so we want to live this journey with you. But I think you'd like to summarise, Chief.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to remind members, particularly newer members, that obviously since the report into London Fire Brigade and a lot of the South Wales, Dorset and Wiltshire, HMI's values and behaviour and then misconduct thematics, there's been a lot of research and a lot of national focus in this area, both by previous fire ministers and the current fire minister as well, right up to and including Home Affairs Select Committee reports and reviews of culture across the fire and rescue sector. And within Royal Berkshire Fire Authority, we've kept you updated about some of the progress that as officers, as an SLT, we've been making and the areas that we've been looking at. And then this today was the commitment around we would bring a more formal update to the authority about the direction we were taking and the progress we're making. So really just the summary is to say that this has been quite a journey for us since the LFB report, but cultural development of Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Services has been going on for way longer than that, a decade. Certainly some good work since 2017 in that era, but a decade of work has been going on. So this is not the start of a journey, as it never is with culture. It's an evolution. But just to summarise with thank yous really for Nikki, Becky and Hazel as well around, I think we're now beginning to see the value of using some of the transition funding to bring in people with an objective external perspective and some expertise to kind of just take us to the next level and build on the good work that we've done as an organisation. And I think the things around benchmarking, understanding our baseline, moving on from that and working out how to measure that going forward with some increased staff engagement, as you've heard tonight, is going to stand us in really good stead, both in terms of the inspection and what HMI find. But quite frankly, they'll say what they want to say. I think we're in a much better position than we were previously. There's a clear commitment to build on the direction of travel that has been achieved to date, and I'm quite excited about the future based on the work that we've got in progress about this. So thank you.
Members, we're announcing this, obviously. I don't have to vote on that, do I? It's only a presentation, Mr. Britton. But I think you've given us reassurance that we really have a lens on this. And I think that's the message I'm taking. We take this very seriously. We're putting serious resource against this, and we look forward to regular updates. Thank you very much. Members, on the next item, which is enabling remote attendance and proxy voting at local authority meetings consultation, if I were to allow a debate on this, I don't think the M4 closing would be an issue. It would be open again by the time you finish the debate. We have 14 members in here, and by golly, we could have at it for hours, couldn't we? But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're recommending that you agree a working party, cross-party task and finish group put together for one meeting, because the deadline for our response is December the 11th, I think. Somebody correct me, but it's 19th. Thank you. So we've got to get this done. And therefore, we're asking a cross-party task and finish group to go through those questions and come up with a view on how we might respond. However, I'm requesting that every member is entitled to answer those questions, send them to the cross-party task and finish group. There's a questionnaire there. We can then take that into account. Councillor McElroy is smiling wryly there. I'm not sure why. Only if you bring that darling baby of yours with you, okay? Who probably isn't so much of a baby 18 months later. And then we will circulate to you, members, where we've ended up in the cross-party task and finish group. And we would hope we would then have captured something like your views on going back. That is the best way, I think, of going about this. It will have lots and lots of opinions, but can we get a consensus? We're trying to get some sort of consensus, and that's the process I'm recommending we go through. But members, Vice Chair, please.
Yeah, I think the chair's right. I think we've all got different views on this, and I think it's a good approach to get more. I sort of had a question actually, was a Faith, because this, I have to say, this sort of came out of the blue, really, a late addition to the. So, is this across all local authorities? Are we on our councils being asked to discuss this? I mean, I assumed it was, and I've not seen anything at Reading yet.
I would recommend that you ask your monitoring officer, because it could have just gone into a monitoring officer who answers the questions and sends them back and tells you afterwards. So
Quite well.
be on alert within your unitaries, please. So members, that's what we're proposing. Let's go to the recommendation just so that we can make sure I've got it right. We agree the establishment, page 17, 2.1. We agree the establishment of a cross-party task and finish group of no more than 7 members to respond. I'm suggesting 7. We'll look at basket proportionality, and we'll provide the names to Democratic Support Lead, Faith, after the meeting. Okay, Faith, rather than right now. And on enabling remote attendance and proxy voting at local authority meetings by 19th of December. We agreed delegated authority be given to the chair. I'd like to change that to the chair, vice chair, and leader of the largest third group. I think that is quite reasonable. And if we can't agree, we'll come back to you. We'll be very democratic here, Councillor McElroy, as you chuckle away over there. And we asked those 3 on the final consultation response on behalf of the Fire Authority. And we note that the consultation response will be presented in February 2025. We're one of hundreds and hundreds of local authorities and combined fire authorities across the country who are responding. But it is appropriate, and it is something that government needs to consider. So I've got Councillor Timlin. Thank you.
Just wanted to, because if people are not aware of this consultation, it's not just councils or authorities as a whole that are being asked to respond. It's also individuals, either members of the public or councillors. So if any, so just to let you know.
Well, that doesn't stop 20 members putting in their own response if you disagree with that final response. I don't know why I keep looking at you, Councillor McElroy. Vice Chair.
Mine was more a sort of practical point in how are we going to have this circulated to us electronically so we could do it that way, or are we going to be ripping bits out of our agenda and writing? I'm just saying because it would need to get it electronically quicker, I think, so we can get everybody's responses. Plus, obviously, for some people are online.
Faith, I don't see why it shouldn't be sent out as a PDF we can fill out. No, yes, no.
We can do a PDF.
Yeah.
We can
With
do
a PDF, okay. We're not going to build a system so we can collate all the and cross-reference all the responses. It's a small amount of data. We can cope with it. Chief.
Chair, can I just clarify what the vice chair meant then, or not? Because did you mean that so that members can respond to the consultation directly, independently, or so that they've got the information to hand to feed into the cross-party working group that you're establishing as a fire authority? Because they're 2 different things.
Yeah,
That will trip Faith up if we don't.
Yeah, I really meant effectively filling in the form, doing our responses, is answering all the questions online.
Back to who?
Oh,
Online, not online.
yeah, they go back to Faith, yeah. And
So
they could be anonymous as well, I guess, but it just doesn't matter really, does it?
So that's for the cross-party working group.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
all members have been asked to
Yeah.
fill this in, but how do we do it? We've got a bit of paper.
Absolutely. You can directly go back to, is it MHCLG? Probably isn't. You can directly go back, Paul. Okay. But whether there is an online portal to do that, Paul, I don't know. You would hope there is. And we're looking at gov.uk here. So as part of gov.uk, you've seen that sort of font and that sort of layout on gov.uk. You can go on and you can fill that out, and as Councillor Timlin said, are you ever so humble, you can fill it out. But for our purposes, you fill out a PDF and send it in so the task and finish group can consider it.
Yeah.
And if you want to say something different direct back to Gov, then do it. But for our purposes, tell us. Yeah. You're looking like you're on an airline.
I'm doing that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks over there. I'm bailing. Yeah, I'm bailing. No, the method of, if you want to respond individually to the government consultation, page 25 of the pack gives you the link to respond. We won't send that out because that is already on the government website. The bit that Faith will send out is the PDF version so that you can send your answers in to be collated, to be considered by the working party.
Yeah, that's okay.
We will send you a deadline for the working party, task and finish group. And if they're not in by then, we'll only consider the ones that have been sent to us. Because they're, you know, we've got to be on a hurry up on this. Okay. We have a process. Councillor Jeffrey.
Just for absolute clarity, so if we want to be putting our information into the task and finish group, we'll send it to Faith, who will. Thank you.
Correct. And whatever you do outside of that is your business. So I'm proposing we agree 2.1, agree 2.2 and note 2.3 with the amendment that the 2.2 would include the vice chair and the leader of the Conservative group, those three groups. I'm proposing that. Do I have a seconder? Billy Drummond, thank you very much. All those in favour? Okay, I think we've got unanimity on there. Splendid, very helpful. Okay, I know I'm rushing, but that one in particular could have bogged us down. On 12, productivity and efficiency plan, page 37. Ellie, are you introducing this? Who's introducing?
Chair, I'm going to.
Nikki, will you introduce it, please? And then I think Ellie's coming in, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, members. So I'm doing this on behalf of my colleague, Katie, who is unfortunately a bit poorly this evening. I will do my best to put her excellent work forward. So this does relate directly to one of those components of the culture plan that I spoke about earlier, and Ellie will give you some more detail. But you've received the paper, which includes quite a lot of information, including some details around the spend against the transition fund, which I think, Chair, you were particularly interested, having brought forward to the meeting, and that is included as part of these papers on page 42 of your pack. The appendices included shows the more detailed examples of some of the work that's created through the efficiency and productivity plan. Efficiency and productivity is being managed through a productivity board, and Katie is the overall sponsor for that. Just to note around the risks, there will be risks associated with all of the pieces of work that are being managed through this, and they are being captured and identified through the corporate risk. But I wanted to highlight the fact that the transition fund is getting a little empty, and so any ability to deliver future kind of investor save products is going to need potentially some additional funding, and so I just wanted to highlight that to you. So what Ellie is going to do is provide you with a bit more information and background, and also some specific details about how we're managing and measuring benefits. So I will hand over to Ellie to give you some more detail.
I'll get the hang of it, I'm sure. So Nick has already touched on the first point there. So just to cover off the other elements that are covered on the introduction and background slide here, I think it's fair to say that since the efficiency and productivity plan was launched, there's been some good work happening around service, delivering changes that are indeed contributing to those efficiency and productivity gains that we're targeting. And in particular, over this year, over the course of this year, the productivity programme has been established more formally, governed by the productivity board, with focus on a number of key projects that are captured in the table on screen. Conscious it's quite small, but for those who can't see it, the in-flight initiatives that we're working on right now are around understanding organisational productivity, which includes the data work stream and a pilot of Power BI. We have asset management in the mix. We have Microsoft 365, where we're building building capability across the service to use the Microsoft tooling in a more efficient way to improve productivity. We're also running through the finance system replacement project right now, and staff development system is also another big project on the go, with the PMP project looking at ways of working and the technology that we're using in that space. So lots of really good activity. I think worth noting, if we could move to the next slide, please, Michaela, worth noting that we have an IT strategy, an ICT strategy that's been in place for some time, that drove the introduction of the ecosystem that we're working with today, which includes the Microsoft 365 suite of tools. And there's work happening right now on refreshing the ICT strategy. Now, clearly we're often running with our projects at this point in time. However, I think worth just highlighting that we're not doing that in isolation. The ICT strategy has been socialised with SLT and with productivity board members. So not only are they cited on that, but actually individuals are inputting to that process as well. So it means that the work we're progressing is very much in line with the strategic intent of the organisation. That said, technology moves all the time. Things are forever evolving, and we can't get away from that. So we do keep an eye on those changes, and we do respond when we need to, as we need to. So we now focus on the priority changes, and actually, of course, remembering that this is the productivity programme, and it's fundamentally about delivering efficiencies and improved ways of working. Clearly, focus for us needs to be on how we measure the success of that and how we deliver those benefits. We could move on to the next slide, please. Have you skipped one, possibly? Thank you so very much. So very briefly on this one, clearly having an appropriate benefit management process in place is really key to enabling us to measure the success of our projects, measure the improvements following those changes. So some really good work has been done by the programme office in putting together a structure, a process around benefits management, and activities now underway in rolling that out across the service, equipping individuals to measure and track those benefits as we move through change. And in parallel, we have a new summary tracker, which allows us to actually capture the data around those benefits. So not just some fluffy words that describe the benefits, but actually some really tangible measures around how we're going to baseline, when are we going to baseline, what are the targets that we're aiming for, so that we have that reference point to go back to. We're categorising the benefits in different ways. The table calls out the different categories. Just to give you some examples, we're calling out cost savings, risk reduction. We're calling out quality improvements, staff satisfaction improvements, those type of things. And as far as possible, we're aiming to get measures in place to be able to track against those. If you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we're in the process at the moment of populating this tracker with all the data and all the information. It's very much work in progress, so we're not quite there with the finished product just yet, but it is evolving, and every day new items are getting added to this. When I completed this snapshot at the back end of last week, there were 30 items, 30 benefits called out in the log, and worth noting that the log is broader than productivity programme. We're calling out other benefits across the service. but 25 of the 30 that were captured at the back end of last week were labelled as productivity items. And in fact, 6 of those have already been delivered, and those items are listed here. I'm going to cover on the next few slides a few examples of some actual benefits that have been delivered, some real examples to share with you, as well as for the finance project. I'm going to very briefly describe the process that we're going through in the months ahead to get that really robust plan and baseline that we can then measure against. So to give you some examples, if we could jump to the next slide, please. We're going to start with a few Microsoft 365 examples. And I think just worth highlighting at this point that Maddie, who is here as an observer at the back today, is our Microsoft 365 specialist who plays a huge role in making the magic happen in this space. So thank you for joining us today. So the 360-degree feedback, I've summarised on here, what was the issue we were trying to fix? So in recent years, we've used a system called Coaching Culture to collate feedback across the service. People use that as part of the annual appraisal, the PDR process, as well as ad hoc feedback throughout the year. Now, that solution comes at a cost of £10,000 per annum. And in fact, I mentioned earlier that we've worked hard to introduce the Microsoft 365 suite of tools across the service. There was an opportunity to actually build a solution using Microsoft to effectively do all the things that Coaching Culture does today. So Maddie worked with a small group of people and quite quickly was able to implement a new solution to cover all of that functionality. So not only is that better for individuals across the service who are using the Microsoft tools day to day, and this just fits nicely with that, but also there's a cashable saving of £10,000 a year associated with that. So go to the next slide, please. Course bookings is another example. Historically, there was heavy admin and lots of manual activity happening around booking people on courses, with individuals trying to see what was available, perhaps struggling to get the information, and the R&D team finding an awful lot of admin surrounding that process. So the creation of an app in this space to bring automation to the process, to allow individuals to go on, see what's available, book, change the booking, do what they need to do, brought a whole raft of efficiencies from both user experience for individuals booking time, but also, as you'll see noted in the bottom right there, savings of 60 days per annum for the R&D team alone through the admin time saved. Jumping to the next slide, again, just keeping with the Microsoft theme, albeit this is the last one in that area. Copilot for meeting preparation and outputs. The Copilot's been a hot topic in recent months. Using AI is something that we hear about in the news all the time. As I'm sure you can all appreciate, formal meetings that require documentation, minutes, actions, decisions, logs, all of those good things, it all comes with a lot of time and effort. We have introduced Copilot into a number of our meetings to see how artificial intelligence can aid and assist and improve productivity in that area through running transcripts and automatically generating summarised actions, decisions and meeting notes. Now the process isn't without any human intervention. You do have to review what's there and make changes accordingly, but there are still huge benefits and savings to be had. And we did some tests across a number of meetings, and it highlighted that the admin time reduced typically from around 90 minutes to 45 minutes. So a 50% saving, definitely worth having. And there's currently some activity exploring other opportunities to get more benefit in that area. If we could just jump to the next slide, please, Michaela, thank you. So this one's slightly different in that we're talking about the finance system replacement, and we're right at the start of the journey on this project, and it's a big project. It's quite complicated, and it's going to take a bit of time to deliver. Now, we have a solution at the moment which is outdated, it's end of life, and it needs replacing. We're at the point where we have chosen our new supplier, and we, through the procurement process, have acknowledged that many of those very manual processes that we're working with right now will disappear as we transition across to using a new, more modern solution. So again, there are a series of benefits that are called out here, and I do appreciate they are quite small. The first one in particular is quite key. This is the big one for me, around improving productivity with time savings that are equivalent to circa 50k per annum, which includes an estimated 1 FTE time saving within the finance area alone, as well as other benefits around risk reduction, risk mitigation, improve user experience, automation leading to fewer mistakes, better assurance, etc. There's a timeline at the bottom of this slide which aims to provide a summary as to how we're going to get into some of the detail around really measuring how things work today, and then checking how we progress as we implement the new solution. And effectively, what this is saying is that by December this year, by the end of December, we will be in a position where we have an understanding as to all of the processes that will be impacted by this particular project. By March, we aim to have baselines captured, so we understand how long each of these processes take today. That gives us that kind of crucial line in the sand that we can then measure against as the new solution comes in later in next year, around October. So by December next year, we'll have that initial view of, well, how long is it taking in this new environment versus where we were at this particular point. And then come April 2026, once the system has been embedded, with 6 months given to allow people time to really use it in anger, we can then do another review to really check how those benefits are playing through, and indeed how that time can then be used for other value add activities. And then next slide, please, just takes us on to the final slide around next steps. I mentioned at the beginning about the process that's been put in place and the effort that's now going into bringing the benefit data into the tracker. Clearly, additional time is needed to really embed that process and to fill any gaps and collate the information in full. Focus will then switch to maintaining that tracker, making sure it's kept up to date, with the data contained within then being used for reporting and oversight. So the plan is that in the months ahead, we'll get into perhaps a better rhythm around reporting progress to productivity board on a monthly basis, with a proposal to bring a half-yearly update to the Fire Authority. And in parallel, and keeping with the theme of trying to do things in the most productive way, we're also looking to explore ways of automating the process of reporting our benefit information using Power BI to make it easier to present the data and insight that provides. And that concludes.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I got a few, and then I'm sure members have got some as well. Firstly, you talk about December 25 to do a benefits assessment. You should have had a lot of benefits realisation by then, because if you bite this off in small chunks, incrementally, you can save 10,000 here, 10,000 there. Some of them are soft savings, and some of them are hard savings. What do I mean by that? Some you clearly know you've saved money on a procurement exercise, for instance, and some of them you've saved time, which you can actually work back to say, I've saved that amount of time, I can monetize that. I've used that person who saved that time somewhere else. So that's effective. AI has a part to play. I think AI as a term is overblown, but when you look at Copilot, you look at probably Genesis is another one, I think, and another product. Is that the Google product, I think? Thank you. Gemini, thank you. There's several out there. We're at Microsoft Office shop. But I'll give you an example, which wouldn't work here. Magic Notes is an AI product for social care. And it is the ability for a social care worker to record a conversation, and it's turned into a report. So it's precisioned for the social care sector. Now, we've been piloting this for about 6 weeks. We've already got social workers saying, I wouldn't go and work for any authority that didn't have this product. The power of a product can be mighty. So as you use them here, this feedback to members, I think, is really vital to show that we're harnessing these techniques. You say, I mean, we're putting £898,000, about 900,000 in our transition transformation fund into this. There's a table here on page 42. You do need to show return on investment. You really do. And it may be that the SLT chief may say, I will top up the fund. I would develop a new fund from the savings so that I've got a continuous program of transformation. Otherwise, I spend my 878k, and then I haven't got anything for the future. So somehow you've got to build it back. And finally, from me, did you say we'd already selected the new finance system? Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
You want to share what it is with us?
Would you like to do that, Carl?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the new systems Technology One. We awarded the contract last week, and we've kind of hit the ground running because they had a user group conference this week, and we attended that, and I think it's very exciting. So there were 200 users at that group, and there are currently now 7 fire authorities that are using Technology One. It's a package that's growing rapidly, and the uptake is all based in local government. So in terms of our evaluation of the package, we think it's going to bring significant benefits to us, and it is tailored to local governments. All the enhancements that they do will relate to us, whereas with Sage, for example, a lot of the enhancements were for industry and supply chains, etc. So we think it's going to suit us very well.
Okay, is it a British company? You talk about local authorities.
It's based in Australia, but they've got a lot of councils within the UK. And
Over the years, I've known, Australia and South Africa coming out with software that can be used here, and it is used here. I think Xero came from down there as well. I might be wrong. Members, Councillor Jeffrey.
Chairman, I was going to ask 2 questions. I think one has been blown away. My question was going to be, is this new system really required? And I think you've probably given a fairly comprehensive answer in response to that. But my other question, I think I'm mildly concerned. With our current financial system at end of life and support ceasing in December 2024, December 2024 to me feels quite soon. I mean, really very soon. Why is it that we've taken apparently perhaps so long to be aware that this is coming up on us at a rate of knots? We've left it a bit tight, haven't we?
Yes, I can answer that. So in terms of stage 1000, it will come to end of life December 24, but it will remain available till 2029. So SAGE themselves will not provide any updates. However, we will have support through our help desk, which is provided by Datel, and that indeed will run up to 2029. So for us, this is an opportunity really to jump several generations, take advantage of what the new systems offer, and move forward there. So the risk is relatively low, but obviously we don't want to stay in a system that's end of life.
And I think, Ali, and through you to Katie, as that's implemented, you'll get the benefits clear. Then you'll assess what they are and realise them and report back in the 6 monthly rate. So that is in now, and here's the benefits we're getting in terms of efficiency. Yes, but again, monetised, either hard or soft.
Making sure that you think about that early enough so that you're considering the baselines and you've got that number to benchmark against. That's the really important thing for me.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So yes, just very quickly, Chair, to say that we have, I suppose, started this process about 18 months ago, and we've done significant market engagement. We've also spent a lot of time internally seeing how this system's going to benefit the organisation. So we've had a lot of input in terms of ICT, but also thinking how we can bring information together through this system and start using one source of data rather than departments running their own systems and data sources.
Team reassured, well, not just reassured, but buying into that, supportive of that. I'm asking you on page 37 to note the progress against the delivery commitments made and agree the 6 monthly progress report updates to the management committee. I propose that. If we're under 2.2, do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Shepherd-Dubé. All those in favour? Kelly, thank you very much. Please thank Katie for us. Next one up then is Connor. It's now 7 minutes to 8, Connor, as you. Almost.
Replace with AI and notes.
No. Connor Byrne cannot be replaced by AI. Quite clear. However, over to you, Mr. Byrne.
Thank you, Chair. So Treasury Management and Local Government is regulated by the CIPFA Code of Practice on Treasury Management and the Prudential Code. So the annual Treasury report for 23-24 is shown in Appendix A, and I can confirm that performance is in line with the prudential indicators approved by the authority at the budget meeting in February 2023. Members also have the mid-year Treasury member update in the pack, and that's shown in Appendix B. And again, performance for the first half of the year is in line with approved prudential indicators. The authority has not adopted any complex investment strategies and gives priority to security and liquidity. The aim is to achieve a yield commensurate with those principles. In addition, the authority has evolved its ethical dimension to its investment strategy for 24-25, and this is now based on a broader range of criteria. Through cash flow management, the authority has been able to capitalise on the still relatively high interest rates to place a number of fixed term deposits during 24-25, and whilst ensuring the security of the underlying capital. Investment income received in 23-24, £786,000, and interest received for the first half of this year is 270. And it's anticipated that investment income for 24-25 will be £733,000. It'll be 270,000 more than budget. In terms of borrowing, that's remained constant at 8.922 million. and interest payable on loans for last year was £333,000 and will be the same for this year. Thank you, Chair.
I'm grateful for that. And just to summarise, our interest received is greater than our interest paid on borrowing. That ain't the case in most unitary authorities. So well done on that, because that's, I think I've worked it out, 300k or more up net inbound to our revenue position. Very, very useful money indeed. Looking forward, of course, you're probably seeing interest rates coming off the top now. So that's good if we're borrowing and bad if we're investing. So members, any comments on that? Members are happy. 2.1 and 2.2 are to note the annual Treasury report and to note the mid-year Treasury management update, page 51. I'm going to propose that. Rochelle has seconded. All those in favour of noting this? Thank you very much indeed. Okay. We then have the Fire Control Service, page 71, the annual report, be introduced by the Deputy. Thank you very much, Mark.
The requirement for brevity is noted, so I'll keep it brief. And I'm introducing this on behalf of Area Manager Jim Powell, who can't be with us this evening. So this is a high-level summary on behalf of the Thames Valley Fire Control Service Joint Committee, an annual report, and always acts as a useful reminder of one of our key collaborative partnerships, which, believe it or not, is nearing its 10-year anniversary. Continues to perform an essential function, a very highly effective function as well, and particularly efficiently because of the collaborative nature, saving Thames Valley Fire and Rescue Services collectively circa £1 million per year. So this past year, they continue to make improvements in performance, as well as addressing some stubborn staff challenges, making some real progress now, particularly given the introduction of a new watch manager role to support Group Manager Simon Harris directly. They also completed a significant hardware refresh, as well as a number of other technical enhancements. Looking ahead, there'll be further technical upgrades, notably the introduction of MATE, so that's the multi-agency incident transfer piece of software, which, for those that recall, that is a key and perhaps the final recommendation that we need to complete with regard to the Grenfell Tower inquiry. We are ahead of the curve on that, and that's thanks to Jim Powell's national lead at that MATE working group. And then just very briefly, the budget continues to be managed very well, with a variance of just over 2% of a budget of £2.6 million. So a very positive report.
And the 57k that we're over budget, and where does that come from? This developing reserves within the service? Connor?
Yeah, so just in terms of that, the cause was the pay awards that were delayed. So how that works is we just invoice each partner for the actual costs. So there was a slight over budget in terms of those payments, but that will square it through there. Yes, financial position. Yeah, and that fed into the our budget report that was presented to management committee in July.
Any comments or questions, members? Councillor Jeffrey.
Hi, Chairman. On page 72 at 3.8, we go to national team to identify the causes of lower than expected performance levels for specific types of incidents. Can I just ask what types of incidents, and what is it that we'll have it that we need to do to bring it back up to spec?
Very pleased you've asked me a very detailed technical question on a paper that I didn't write, but No, absolutely not. And if I can't answer it, of course, we'll come back to you with the detail of it. But let me just familiarise myself, and I should be reasonably okay with it. If you wouldn't mind, yeah.
So, part of that, Councillor Jeffreys, is to do with when we've reported back to the joint committee, and call handling times have been subject to quite some scrutiny, and there's been a lot of hard work to do around understanding the breakdown of the call handling time. What we've done is we use what's called as well dynamic mobilising. So we get the control operator training, we get them to extract as much information from the caller as you would expect as we can to get the best possible mobilisation. When that comes to things like a fixed location incident, so a building, industrial premise, house, or whatever, we automatically get notified of eastings and northings, so the location of where that call is. So that information is automatically populated very quickly into the command and control system, so we can get fire engines moving whilst we're extracting information from the caller. Where that is much more difficult is in things like road traffic collisions, fires in the open, and areas of the like, where you're having to extract information from the caller to say, can you tell us where you are? And at M4, for example, people don't know where they are. So when you're then pulling information from callers, it can take much longer to mobilise to the right place. So it's very difficult to get the system to provide the performance information and data on the breakdown of those types of call about why the call handling time took so long. And they're working on how to tease that out, because the joint committee would like that performance information as well. And they work for 3 different fire and rescue services. So the data that each of the services requires might be slightly different.
Thank you. I draw attention also, faithful reminders of the date. There are actually members are being invited into control, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, can I give a plug for that, please? Yeah, middle of December, you've had an invite today, and believe me, it's a while since I went around there, but it's very good. And it also, if you can get it, it shows the staff we're interested in how they go about their work. Yes, Councillor Frewer was involved in this. Peter, if you'd like to come in, sir, you have the floor.
Hello. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, I've been on the committee for over a year now, and I've got to say how massively impressed I am with Jim and the team and the way it's all run. I mean, it's quite incredible to see it, you know, the 3 services working so well together. Talking about visiting the control room, I'd advise any new member to go and have a visit. It's hugely impressive. I mean, the skill and the professionalism of the team in there is just it's mind blowing. So yeah, that's all I want to say really.
Grateful for that, Peter. Thank you very much indeed. Being asked to note the report members, I've got Councillor Mack.
Cheers, thank you. Just to know, I'd really like to join these sorts of things, but I have a full-time day job during the week, and so I always have to turn them down, and I feel a bit sad about it. So if it's ever possible to get one of these visits on a Saturday or something, that might make a difference to me at least. I don't know if it makes any difference to everyone else.
Feed that back to Jim Powell, please,
Yeah.
to talk to the controller.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you. It's a very fair, important point. I'm being asked to note this report. I'm proposing we note it. Did you want to come in? You second it? Thank you, Councillor Griffith. All those in favour? I'm ever so sorry to rush you, but Councillor Gahir gave me a challenge earlier, and I'm trying to make it. Your final moment of fame in this authority, anyway. Well, with the CFA, anyway. So over to you, Paul, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, this report outlines the annual governance report for 23-24 and the work that the Audit and Governance Committee has carried out across the year on looking at various reports and members' allowances and the attendance of various committees within the report. At the start of the year, the committee was presented with the areas for improvement on the inspection from His Majesty's Inspectorate in 2022, and the 12 areas that were looked at across there, and agreed those areas for improvement and the action plans across that. The committee throughout the year also saw various reports and updates on the pensions and pay policy, gender and ethnicity pay gap, as well as signing off the statement of accounts for 2020 and 2021. The committee has also been updated on internal and external audits and their outcomes, on which on the whole has been positive. The members' allowance has been increased in line with the Green Book Pay Award for that year, which was 3.8% and is in the appendices, as well as the members' attendance, which has been positive throughout the year of 2023 and 24, with only absences being clashes generally with unitary authority meetings, of which Faith and Michaela liaise with their counterparts to reduce these as much as possible when creating the calendar for the year. The chair would like to thank all the members of the committee for their involvement across the year in the committee and supporting those papers going forward. And I'll leave it there for any questions from members. Chair.
Thank you very much. And this shows to the public that we are under the spotlight. They know what our remuneration is. They know how many meetings we attend. They can put a lens on us as to what we're doing here. I think pages 85, 86, 87, 88, all the attendance is overall very, very good indeed. And the chief just whispered on my ear, what's it like at the unitaries? Now, that's a different picture. The executive members at unitaries, I think, work very, very hard and lots of meetings. For backbench members at unitary, less meetings, and can actually sometimes become disengaged. So that system is, I'm not saying it's wrong, but can be better, frankly, in terms of member involvement. But generally, I speak for my authority, as it's generally good. But this is very, very good. This is very, very good. And members, I won't have another round of applause. We had so many rounds of applause tonight, but I think members should be quite pleased about this one. So members, again, I think this is a noted item. 77. Page 77. Okay. Councillor Brown, I'm sorry, I'm rushing now. I'm sorry.
Just thought I would have a quick note. I think that it's entirely possible we could improve the numbers on who's done what skill-based training, because I'm sure I'm not alone. I can't remember to record all the training sessions I've been to, and if we had a nice succinct way of recording those, we'd really make a difference, I think. Yeah, we'll do that on March. We do that. Okay. Yeah. I always try and remember them and I can't. The protecting information by all staff, very important. We must do that, chaps. And what's the other thing I noticed is very important? Sending apologies. But well, I think we do very well, and all this recording is really helpful. Lovely, thanks.
Yes, great for that. Thank you, Councillor Brown. And as Faith says, in March we'll look at the skills development programme for members. So well done, and I'm looking for you to note on page 77 the report. The members' allowances is a statement of fact. The attendance record, we note all three. I'm proposing we do. I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Rochelle Shepherd-Bay, and all those in favour of noting this report. Got 6. No. You'll have 45 minutes. Okay. If I finish at 8:15. Always like taking up a challenge. We're now on to forward plan, I believe. Okay, noted on pages 88 and 89. I don't think I need a vote to note this, but members, I'm going to accept that we've noted this. I don't see any members querying it. Offline, you could equally impact this if you wanted to suggest a report come forward to one of the bodies. Thank you very much. So noted. And then finally, minutes of the standing committees. We note the link there for all the minutes of the recent meetings. We note that the next meeting is the 19th of February. We've got a management committee before then.
Yes.
Be the budget meeting, won't it?
Councillor Timlin.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. We do liaise with the other councils because all the council meet, basically that's our budget meeting. And the council's actually asked us to have our budget meeting before theirs, and all theirs is the following week. So if we had it we couldn't have it the following week because there'll be clashes. So we've promised not to clash with other council meetings. So the week after the 19th is when all the 6 unitaries are having their budget meeting. So unfortunately, that's the date, because it's difficult if we have it any earlier in the month because Connor doesn't have the information he needs. So that's the earliest, and unfortunately, he's in half term.
You know, it's incredibly difficult to synchronise these. You've not only got the unitary council. I get told off by Councillor Jeffrey if we book a meeting on a Monday because we have parish and town council meetings on a Monday. Then you have half term, you have school holidays. Please forgive us.
Bring on remote meetings.
And now then, you fill out the questionnaire like everybody else, okay? Looking to influence us, yeah? Okay, thank you very much. That's forward plan. That is the budget meeting coming up on we do have a management committee. Yeah. So the date of the next meeting, 19th of February. But what I will do now, because actually I've got 3 minutes, so I'll pad it out. I'm going to filibuster it to 8:15. I wish you very good Christmas, a happy New Year. If we don't see you before then, thank you very much indeed, members.
Your first time.